The second season of the King of the Hill revival dropped this summer, and I peeled off my sunburned skin to watch it. The first season of the King of the Hill revival dropped last year, nearly 15 years after the original show was cancelled in 2009. How did these two seasons hold up? Well, let's find out. Firstly though, I want to give my 2 cents on King of the Hill. I love the original King of the Hill series. It's my favorite adult animated cartoon. I like it more than Family Guy, more than Bob's Burgers, more than, I don't know, the Cleveland Show, obviously.
My name is Cleveland.
Shut your fucking mouth!
King of the Hill is, quite frankly, one of the funniest shows of all time. It's so smart with its humor. It's not like it's spamming jokes over and over again. It's methodical with its approach. The show mainly revolves around Hank Hill and him trying to navigate the changing world around him, with the many quirks in them, as well as dealing with his family, who similarly are falling out of the norm. Hank Hill is a straight-laced, traditional Texan man that believes in conventional values. It's here where King of the Hill thrives with its comedy, seeing Hank Hill react to the ever-changing world around him. Hank doesn't want anything to change as he already likes how everything is, but the world must evolve and we see Hank deal with this evolving world. Hank Hill is just such a great character, voiced wonderfully by the show's creator Mike Judge, who also has created other amazing shows and movies like Beavis and Butthead and Office Space. Hank has such a funny personality to him. He knows what he likes and what he doesn't, and he doesn't wear his emotions on his sleeve. All of the characters in King of the Hill are fantastic, such as Bobby with his extravagant personality and memorable lines.
From now on, you'll be taking medication after every meal.
So, do I smoke it or snort it or what?
As well as his relationship with Hank, which might honestly be the heart of the show. Luann for being a ditzy girl with such funny one-liners that she spits out constantly, almost every episode she's in.
You know, I don't even have a boyfriend. My last one, Buckley, blew up in a propane explosion.
To even Peggy, early on at least, for being pretty egotistic and stubborn, but still having that charm to her that makes her enjoyable. The main cast are also great in their own special ways, and I haven't even talked about the side characters that are also excellent, like Dale, Bill, Boomhauer, and Con, all having such funny personalities attached to them. King of the Hill has incredible episodes in each season, like 3 Days of the Condo, where the Hill family go to Mexico, a place where Hank sticks out like a sore thumb, having wacky escapades in the land down under the states. A funny episode all the way through.
Run!
Or returning Japanese, where we meet Hank's half-Japanese brother that looks exactly like him. Again, a fish out of water type of story. Or even the classic Hank's Dirty Laundry, one of my favorites, where the plot can't be any more simpler as we follow Hank after he's been mistakenly charged for not returning a porno. So in classic Hank Hill fashion, he fights to clear his name by doing what any sensible man would do, watching porn all night to gather evidence. King of the Goon. Again, such a funny, memorable episode without it being complex. That's why the show works so well. It's simple, memorable episodes that are jam-packed with funny moments in them. You probably already knew all of this about King of the Hill. I just wanted to spout how much I adore King of the Hill. I can absolutely make a video dedicated to the show, and I probably will. So when I heard that they're gonna make a revival of this beloved show, I was skeptical, but still very curious on how it would turn out. So on August 4th, 2025, season 14 of King of the Hill dropped. The revival of King of the Hill brought with it many new and interesting changes. Bobby is no longer a 13-year-old, but rather a 21-year-old adult, as they've decided to do a 10-year time skip. The numbers don't really add up, but we'll go with it. Bobby now lives in Dallas, which I'm sure Hank is not too fond of, and now works as a chef in a restaurant owned by Chain Wasana-san. The restaurant, interestingly enough, is a fusion of German and Japanese. Cotton's certainly looking up in confusion. Bobby going the culinary route is somewhat, but not really, unexpected, as we leave off in the last episode of King of the Hill, with Bobby and Hank bonding over their love of cooking steaks. I guess the writers chose that as Bobby's focus over his love of stand-up comedy that he had as a child. I find that it totally makes sense that Bobby would want to be a chef, as he has shown that he truly enjoys cooking, like in that one episode where he cooks for Thanksgiving and Hank loves it, while Peggy not so much. Hank, for this first season of the revival, has come back from Saudi Arabia and has secured his nest egg for himself and Peggy, with us learning that something happened in Strickland Propane that made him quit on the spot. It was smart to have Hank not be present in the new age world, as he's in a pretty sheltered spot in Saudi Arabia, with really none of the technological or cultural advances appearing there. So Hank not only comes home to a modern America, but also to a town where he was gone for 10 years. Doing this keeps the original premise of the show alive, as we see Hank react to all the modern gizmos and gadgets gadgets and cultural norms like gender-neutral bathrooms, rideshare services like Uber, and app rating systems. What I really enjoy about this revival is that it's not like they just brought back the show right where it left off. They decided to make it a time skip where everyone's older and maybe not so wiser.
That's for my Patreon.
Doing that keeps King of the Hill fresh, as now we have new changes that we're curious about seeing, like with Bobby or Hank or the guys in Arlen. If they were to bring back the show as it was, with no changes, then it would most definitely feel stale after a couple of episodes. We've seen it previously with revivals like Futurama. I felt that Futurama got stale quick with its revival episodes, and that's because A, bad writing, and B, there's really nothing interesting to talk about with the show that's gone on for as long as it has. Shows like these have pretty much run their stories into the ground. There's really nothing new to talk about that they haven't talked about already, so they just rehash the same old stories that they've already been telling. And if I'm being honest, King of the Hill's later seasons were having that same issue. Putting a fresh coat of paint on the show makes it way more interesting than if we were to come back with no changes, so I'm glad they went in that direction. They're able to tell new stories, have new plots that they couldn't have explored if they kept the show as is, including Bobby being an adult and working, or Hank retiring from the Propane game and trying to find a new purpose in life. Real quick, leaving a like and subscribing would mean a lot to this Texan anime enjoyer. Thanks. For this first season of the King of the Hill revival, I was curious what they were going to do with these new changes. They could have done just about anything. So what did I think about this first season of the King of the Hill revival? I thought it was okay. It's not the best season of King of the Hill, but it's far from the worst. The first season of the revival satisfied my itch to see these characters again and the changes with them. We see how they decided to tackle these changes, such as with Bobby now being his own man and dealing with the jackasses around him, much like what his daddy used to deal with, or with Connie now being in an open relationship with Chain, or with Con and Min having a nasty divorce, Min taking Con's last hot pocket in the divorce. But the problem with the King of the Hill revival is that they give us the most basic plots for these premises. They don't expand on them as much as I would like them to, and quite frankly, some episodes being wasted away, like with Bill hanging out with his other boys in the barber shop, feeling like an episode that they could have made without the new changes. They sort of do a half-assed job of exploring these changes, with the exception of Bobby's character. I think they nailed Bobby, and I'm glad we were able to see the fun changes that went on with his character. Bobby now feels like the main character of the show, which is without a doubt the best way to approach this revival, but the rest of the show feels sort of flounderized with the versions of the characters that they give us, like with Dale and Bill and Peggy. The jokes that they tell I found to land rather flat, but there were some fun scenes that happened, like Bobby introducing Hank and Peggy to the restaurant for the first time. We see how nervous it makes them, with Bobby just wanting to impress Hank and Hank wanting to add propane to everything. The season overall was okay. It made for a fine viewing experience. So what did I think of the second season of the revival? I also thought it was okay, believe it or not. I enjoyed season 15 on the whole enough, I'd say. It had some moments to enjoy about it, like with Bobby and Hank's storylines, which were 100% the highlights for this season, or the episode with Bobby trying to bring Con and Min back together for one night for Connie's birthday. Bobby is the highlight in this episode as he has many moments that show the growth of his character. For instance, being fine with Con giving a gift that he was going to give Connie for her birthday, or Hank and Peggy catching them sleeping together and Bobby getting grilled by Min like she's always done to that poor boy. My favorite episode of this new season is the finale with Hank, as we come to learn what happened to make Hank quit Strickland Propane. Everyone reverts back to how they looked pre-time skip. I don't know what it is, but they gave this episode this filter that makes it resemble how the show used to look in the early seasons. A slight warm tint, it looks like. It's a nice flashback to those who did want to see how the show used to look, giving me nostalgia. It's enough to make a man cry, I'll tell you what. I really enjoy the story for this episode, and I wish that they had this episode in the first season, as it explains pretty much everything we know about the revival of the show, like with what made Bobby ultimately decide to pursue being a chef and the incident that made Hank quit Strickland. Funny enough, being what Buck always does, passing Hank over to his son Ray Roy for manager of Strickland Propane. Being passed over that many times would make just about anybody quit on the spot, so that's exactly what Hank does. Later in the episode, Hank's searching for jobs on LinkedIn, bringing me to a side tangent. I have no idea what time period this episode is supposed to be in, because King of the Hill originally ended in 2009 with Bobby still being 13, and in this episode Bobby is 16 years old. Hank is on LinkedIn, which isn't so weird I guess, as that came out in 2002, but we see Bobby holding a smartphone like that of a newer iPhone model, and also the smoking gun and all of this. Bobby's a big BTS fan and they didn't blow up till around 2018. We're quite frankly all over the place in this timeline. They should release a Hyrule Historia for King of the Hill, like what Nintendo did for The Legend of Zelda. That book book, including the official timeline for that series, I'd read the hell out of the King of the Hill one. Hank finds a job in an Aramco base in Saudi Arabia, and both Hank and Peggy talk to Bobby about it, deciding to leave him behind as he's almost 18. I enjoyed learning all of this stuff that led to the major changes in this King of the Hill revival. This episode was without a doubt the best in the season so far. What I also enjoyed about this season is Hank and Bobby's relationship. We see them bonding and still learning from one another, like with the episode where Bobby has a food truck for a robotic chain and takes it to a local sci-fi convention.
Sexy Japanese hentai.
Bobby asks for Hank's help in manning the trunk and helping tell customers to go eat at the food truck, but Hank doesn't understand the target audience and badmouths them. At the end of the episode, both come into an understanding about why people enjoy watching these sci-fi shows. It's a cute episode between the hills that shows what their strengths and weaknesses are. It's nice to see episodes like that. As I mentioned earlier, that's what I think the heart of the show was originally. I really liked exploring more of Bobby's life and seeing what kind of a man he's grown up to be, being similar to Hank. You can see the resemblance between Bobby and Hank, both having similar mindsets with Bobby in his adulthood. I like the little moments we get with Bobby, notably the scenes that show the character of his character, like how he cares for Connie with the gift, or him trying to help Hank with the phishing scam. Another one being when he helps Connie when she signs up to become a mascot for her university sports team. Bobby initially just does it for her, but finds out that Connie's real problem is that she doesn't like failing at anything. So Bobby tells her it's okay to fail and that you should embrace it as that's what makes you human and grow in life. I thoroughly enjoyed the moments that they give Bobby this season that show us how far he's grown. It's nice to see. There are some fun moments during each episode that makes it worth watching, but most of the time for this season, we're stuck with plots that really didn't need to be made. Like the hard launching a relationship episode where they spend the majority of the episode about if Bobby and Connie should go public with their relationship. Is this really worth 1 out of 10 episodes that came with the season? They could have come up with more intriguing episodes with these new changes. I don't know, top of my head, Bobby hanging out with one of the guys like Dale or Bill and seeing how they work with one another. It'd be interesting in how it plays out. Another example of a wasted episode is the one where Hank and Peggy want to be marriage counselors at a church retreat, or the fucking episode about Bill getting into cuddling, treating it as if he has a crack addiction. Are these really the best ideas we can come up with? It feels like these episodes could have been made in the original show, more so the later seasons when they were running out of ideas. The one thing that carried over from the first season of the revival to this one, and that I really dislike, is the horrendous animation. It's a shame because I really liked how the original show looked, with it being hand-drawn in those first few seasons. I know that it's no longer financially and or worth the time to do it hand-drawn, but it made the show look so charming. They shifted the animation to being digital only after season 5 of King of the Hill, which still sort of looked like the classic version of the show, but a little more polished. However, now with this new revival season of King of the Hill, it looks cheaply made, which I notice is the case for most of these Hulu shows. The animation just looks stiff and extremely unlifelike, almost like a Flash cartoon. You can immediately tell that they skimped on the budget for the animation, which is a shame. You can't really blame them as that's where animation for these shows have been heading and they're just adopting it. Hell, look at the recent Family Guy episodes. Same deal, but to a more worse extent. I want to quickly mention all of the new changes for the voice actors for these new seasons. It's unfortunate that a handful of these cast members passed away during or before the revival's release, including Johnny Hardwick, the voice of Dale, Brittany Murphy, Luann, Tom Petty, Lucky, and Jonathan Joss, John Redcorn. It's obvious why they didn't want to recast the voices of Luann or Lucky or John Redcorn, opting to honor Johnny Hardwick by having his friend and fellow cast member Toby Huss voice Dale instead, with Toby previously voicing Con and Ted. Really, I think Toby does a great job with the voice of Dale. You can tell that there's a difference, but the spirit of Dale is still in the voice that Toby gives him. My problem comes with the new voice actors for Con and Ted. More so Con's voice actor, as he's more of a recurring character in the show. The performance that this new voice actor gives Con is just simply not good. He sounds so wooden and stiff when speaking as Con. The energy that Toby Huss gave Con is absent, which is a real shame as Con was in my top 3 of favorite characters in King of the Hill. There was just no need to recast Con and these other Asian characters just because the original voice actors weren't of their character's ethnicity. It's an adult animated comedy, so some characters are going to be exaggerated. It's okay, we're adults here. Most of us. Get out of here, Timmy. I especially say this because these new voice actors do not capture the spirit of the characters that they're portraying. Not a major gripe, but still one I have. Season 15 of King of the Hill was a fine season of television that scratched my balls itch to see the Hill family back in action. The show will most likely never be as good as the original 5 seasons, but they did a good enough job to keep me interested in the next season. I give this new revival season of King of the Hill a 6.5 out of 10. Let me know what your thoughts are on this new season of King of the Hill in the comments. Thanks for watching, peace out, and have fun.